right, Matt, the red light's on. Now, you're probably not as nervous as some of my other podcast guests because you're a musician, right? So you've seen the red light on, right? You've recorded before, right?
Yeah.
You know this pressure, right? I got to deliver one take, right?
Take. I did a podcast for 2 years too, so.
Oh, you got it, yeah.
I got all the willies out of my system.
Okay, good. Well, let's do a quick sound check. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had my kids' leftover parfait, which is like yogurt and granola and strawberries.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I noticed the leftover. I do that as well. I've kind of stopped eating my own breakfast because I'm like, I make breakfast and then nobody eats anything. So I'm just like, well, right. I just come through at the end and clean the dishes, basically. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's great. It's a great system. At some point, there will be a day where I get to make my own breakfast again. But till then, just eat the scraps, right? Just see what's left over. Well, instead of talking about our kids' breakfast schedules, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell my listeners who you are and what you're doing over on Kickstarter right now?
Sure. My name is Matt MacDonald, and I am, I guess, a lot of hats, but for all of my adult life since I was 19, I've been principally a songwriter and a band frontman, and I put out albums. And we were signed for years to a label called Tooth and Nail that was under the EMI umbrella, which out of Seattle, and we toured the country and we went overseas and we did a lot of stuff, and now we're independent. And nice. First became independent in 2011 after we fulfilled 3 records on the label, and label asked if we wanted to do a 4th, and we decided no, we'd like to try this crowdfund thing, try to do it kind of on our own. And it was kind of at the beginning of Kickstarter. There'd been a couple music campaigns. I think, was it Amanda Palmer?
Amanda Palmer is sort of the that's someone who kind of created this whole empire, I think, in music and crowdfunding.
That kind of broke through, and I think some bloggers had talked about it. And I thought, that's interesting. Like, there's no way we're that big or we get that much money, but like if we could get enough to cover the budget, and to have it be equal to what the label budget was, right, then I think that I could executive produce, I could manage, I could hire the people that I need to get the similar quality, product, for lack of a better term, out to the people who want to hear it. And so we launched our first Kickstarter in 2011. Nice. And we've been doing them ever since. I do them for other people. So basically people are like, so many people were calling me about, hey, how did you do it? That eventually I was like, hey, I'll just do it for you if like you just like give me a tiny percentage of what I can get, because it is a big learning curve, and there is a skill and a talent that you need to write copy, to design packages, to make things, to communicate. And a lot of people just don't have that naturally. And I don't know, I picked that up along the way, and so I can do it for other people. But the project we have right now that we just funded is our 7th LP, which is like long play. It's the full length album of new songs. And we're about halfway through right now, 2 weeks in.
That's awesome. So you and I share quite a backstory. So I don't know if you know how much about this, but I have like the 20th Kickstarter ever, and I used to do them for all kinds of bands. I ran like 300 campaigns for musicians. I used to own recording studios in Detroit, Chicago, Chapel Hill. And I actually pivoted into just running an agency where we just do crowdfunding, right? Like I took all those skill sets of trying to sell musicians and bands on Kickstarter and moved it into what we're doing now, right? Having this conversation and doing it for other people.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been our world.
Cool. Sorry, you just froze for you just froze for a second, but you're back now. So
I saw that too. Yeah, I got the little Zoom hiccup there, the old Zoom tech hiccup. So that's great. Thanks, Internet.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back live. But yeah, so yeah, we've got some interesting stories. So so on this album, what was it that kind of started coming together? When did you guys have the songs started to kind of come together? I'm assuming the pandemic has something to do in the story.
Well, it does. It does have something to do. It's interesting. So the last album we did, LP6, it's called Patterns in the Static. It's out now. It actually came out February 15th, like 2 weeks before schools closed.
Cool.
Actually, the late February is when it came out. It actually came out around Valentine's Day. So it was like right at the beginning of, a global pandemic, which wasn't ideal because we had tours planned for the summer.
Sure.
We were supposed to go to the East Coast. We were supposed to do a number of different things. I was supposed to go out and do living room shows with my wife, and all that stuff canceled. So basically the record never got what I think it deserved as far as just being able to connect live to people.
Right.
And, we were postponing tours. We were pushing it back. And it just looked like, okay, we can just sit here and wait and postpone, or we can just make another record. Like it's time. Maybe it's time to move on,
Yeah.
And so with this record, same as the last, the whole thing that I've been doing now is not writing anything before doing a Kickstarter. So I had 0 songs written. And the whole point is to really challenge myself to number one, when people put faith in you, even if it's in terms of like dollars and cents, or they're ordering something from you, there's that demand. At least for me, like I can't sleep until I fulfill that order. There's something about it that's so pressing to me. Like someone's out there, they ordered something from me and I have to deliver it. And so that's a good motivator to actually do the work.
Yeah.
After 20 years of doing it. Yep. But also it's a way to invite people into the actual process of making it. And Kickstarter's always had that promise of, you can be a part of the production process of something that you love or something that you want. And it's this kind of relationship between the person manufacturing it and the people buying it. And there's kind of doing away with the middleman and all the other stuff. And so it's kind of a more unique relationship. And that's kind of what I like about it, is that I've been doing stuff on Twitch, live streaming on Twitch, and inviting people into the actual songwriting process, which is messy. It's not this clean, when I go away for a year, you miss all the messiness. And then I come with this like polished product and you're like, wow, great job. He's like, no, you didn't see how many darlings I had to murder to get there, and how much bad ideas I had along the way.
Right.
And so Twitch is kind of cool. And just inviting people into the process to see all the bad ideas, I think is
it's funny because I help out for some venture capital firms. I, help at some community colleges for their tech world. And I bring the whole creation process of music with me. And it's such a foreign language to the engineer or the designer making the widget. Like they can't comprehend being vulnerable, putting it out there, seeing all the mistakes. So they approach Kickstarter or crowdfunding incorrectly, where, man, we learned early on that music was just such a great vehicle because you could, be a part of the lyrics. You could be there could be inspiration tied into rewards and tied into the product or whatever it is, right? You can just do all that. But now taking that concept and then putting it over to this, tech widget thing, or my jacket that you can plug in and heat up and go, no, people want to talk about it and be a part of it. Like people can't comprehend that or be that open. So I've always used that analogy around you got to really look at board games, look at music projects that do well, because I think it really shows how people want to get involved in these projects to a much deeper level than just money, right? Yeah, cool, you got the $100, but man, people following everything, there's no value on that, it's awesome.
Right. Right. Yeah. And one of the first things we did was, which was so easy, and it's become kind of our most popular package, is it's just at kind of around the $50 level, you get your name thanked in the album liner notes. So in the CD or in the vinyl. And it's as easy as just taking everyone's names from the surveys and sending it to the artist and being like, hey, I need these listed in there. But it's also so cool. It's so cool. Cause I remember just having my name in my own CD. Right. I remember opening it up and being like, there I am. I did this, or I helped make this. I remember that feeling, and to be able to give that to people at no real cost to me, like an extra panel in a CD, maybe, which is 15 cents or something. I don't know what it is, but it's not a lot of money, but it's such a value to the people who are a part of the project. Yep. And to be able to share that same. It's like when you hear your song on the radio for the first time, it's to share some of that ownership, or to see yourself on in a medium or on a platform that you've like witnessed for a long time without your being there, and then suddenly you're there. That's I don't know. There's something interesting about that experience, and it's such an easy thing to give.
Yeah, what you're speaking there, we just did that for the Cream, the rock documentary that's on iTunes right now. We did their Kickstarter and did their whole production, and the movie credits is forever because of all the backers. But it's like, man, when I went, even for myself, because I backed it, even though we worked on it, but just seeing your name on the big screen of like, that's me. You know, and it's like, that didn't cost us anything. Like it's just literally putting it in the movies, copy and paste and let the credits roll. Right. Documentary credits. That's great. Cause those are coming anyways. Yeah. Yep. And everyone has a relationship to those. I mean, yeah, exactly. So for our listeners who don't know much about the band and what you guys sound like kind of put us in a ballpark of, who's the band in front of you, who's the band after you, where do you guys fit in the middle? Kind of, what do you guys sound like and how do you describe it to people? We've grown and changed over the years. I would say, I mean, it's hard to say, alternative rock, melodic rock. We can say, there's melodies in it. But when we started out, 19, 20, 21 years old, we're obviously more influenced by like more aggressive, heavier stuff. And then kind of we're into more groovy stuff now, but we still have throwbacks to like more energetic stuff. I mean, a band that probably is similar is like Jimmy Eat World. Yeah, I could hear that one. They can kind of, or like Foo Fighters-ish, maybe in our earlier days more, and then kind of more groovy, more pop a little bit now. So, I mean, that's the best way I could probably describe it. I did some clicking around, and I thought a lot of melodies, right? A lot of words. I mean, I thought it was like a lot of chew on, right? In terms of like real melodic, power chords. It seems like a lot behind it, but still like good energy and stuff. I enjoyed I put you on some of my Spotify playlists the other day. Thank you. added you to my playlist. But so for you guys, what, obviously you haven't started to record this stuff yet, but how do you guys sort of approach the recording process, the creative process? Is it mostly you? Is it you bringing in other people? Is it the band gets in a room and just jams for, 2 weeks? And what do you guys look? How do you guys work? These days it's mostly me. I mean, the last time we actually like wrote in a room, it's probably been like 6 years, maybe. Just because everybody's, they're all small business owners themselves and run their own stuff. And so this has kind of become my thing where it's like, if I don't do it, it won't get done. And so the big thing is to do a Kickstarter to make sure it gets done. Right. But yeah, I mean, every record is a little different. When I was younger, usually would start with just me on an acoustic guitar, playing a riff and trying to sing something over it, or maybe I had a rhythmic rhyme in my head that I was mulling over, and I would bring that to something, or my bandmate would have a riff, or I would have a drum beat or something. I started one record where it was just like, I'm only going to work with the rhythm section first, so I'd only build a beat, in MIDI in Pro Tools, and then I would put a bass line over top. And if that was interesting enough, I would keep building the rest of the song. But if it wasn't interesting enough, I would stop. And so the whole point was to build it from the ground up instead of the top down, which is normally what I do with lyrics and chords on an acoustic, is kind of top down, build it out. Yep. So every record I try to limit the tools that I have at my disposal, or kind of come at it from a different angle, because I feel like different things are discovered when you shake things up like that. Yep. And I don't want to write the same song twice, even though I think I have occasionally. I try to steer away from that. Like sometimes I'll be like, here's a throwback to that song that you guys liked 3 records ago. But most of the time I want to push off. I want to get away, and I always end up coming back to like doing the thing that I do when it comes to songs. Like there is a thing that I do that's different than everybody else, but like the further I can push away, the more interesting that thing becomes, I feel like. So I try. Yeah, it sounds like you're really inspired by that pressure of making your own box, right? Or your own rule. So I used to subscribe to I still to this day I subscribe to like Peter Gabriel, saying he did that whole album with just a piano and vocal. That's all I have, or I did an album, all of his, that one album was just strings, no drums, no bass. Like until you create that box that you have to play in, creativity doesn't happen. And it's one of the things that I struggled with early when, I started so long ago with just an acoustic guitar too, but then you start I have like an entire studio on my iPad. I can make anything, and you end up not making anything because you're like, you're stuck in like, I'll get the violin out now.
Right.
Why are we talking about a violin right now? We don't have the rhythm or whatever it is, Yeah. It's been crazy how much that's changed.
When you're younger too, everything's so organic that like any instrument will do, because you're just this like fountain of expression that you're trying to find yourself, and you're trying to put words to your experiences, and all the experiences are new. And so it's like anything will do. But then when you get older, I feel like there is utility in just cutting so much stuff away.
Right.
It's almost like choosing your weapons for battle. Like you have this arsenal, but you have to, it's like that scene in like the action film where they load up on guns or whatever, and everyone picks what they want,
Yeah.
But like as a songwriter or a creator, you have to go, okay, this is my canvas. Here's my brushes. Here's my colors. Yeah. If you want to put it in painting terms, and then I can mix the colors together to get some other colors. But like, this is what I'm starting with, and this is what and then once you set those terms, it's amazing how just the discipline of doing that equals so much freedom. Because like you're not going down into song libraries, listening for 4 hours on a rabbit trail, trying to find something. You're just like, no, what do I have? What do I have that'll make it work? Like, what's the snare sound I have right now that could work?
Yeah.
And there's something good to that, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And how about like band members? I don't know much of the history, but just like, have you had a pretty consistent band for all these years, or have you rotated some guys?
No, we've never rotated. I mean, all the guys are the same guys. One guitar player left. We used to have 2 guitar players, and I was just like a singer frontman. And then when one of our founding guitar players left, he's like a nurse now and lives in Montana. But I just started playing guitar, so we were fine as a 4-piece. Yeah. But that's the only change. I mean, everyone else has been the same for, since 2003 when we met. So 17 years.
How'd you guys all meet? How'd you guys kind of formulate this and get it all together? Is it?
I was going to the Art Institute of Seattle, and I answered. So, guitar player and drummer went to high school together, and they met. They moved across the mountains in Washington State here, from Eastern Washington or Central Washington to the coast, and started going to community college. And they wanted to start a band, and so they found a bass player who was actually a guitar player at school. And so they had bass, guitar, and drums, and they needed a vocalist. So they put an ad in the free newspaper, The Stranger, which is like a free weekly newspaper in Seattle. Yeah. And I was like going to audio production school downtown and in Seattle. And, I'd be on my break at like Old Navy or Eddie Bauer, some retail job. Yeah. And like perusing the classifieds, to try to find, basically I wanted people who were going to play my songs. Mm-hmm. And then when I said rock vocalist wanted, I was like, okay, I'll check it out. So, called them up and showed up and listened to their songs that they had written, like 9 songs, just all instrumentally. And I thought it was amazing. Like it was super tight and they were super good. Of course, in retrospect, probably they weren't, but like my perspective at the time was like, I've never heard anything this good live. And then I stood in front of them and played them some of my songs in the old band room, and that was it. They'd tried out a bunch of singers and they thought that I had a good shot. And so initially I was just writing songs to their instrumentals, and then I slowly over time introduced my songs, and then I don't know, about halfway through there, I just became the principal songwriter. Everyone stopped writing. So,
well, I mean, that's intriguing because I coach a lot of startup companies now. So again, outside of music, and again, one of my analogies is that every business needs to have a front man, right? The guy that like, I get the stuff done. I'll be on the videos. I'll be in the, you know, I'm the one responding. Even for our company, I had to make that decision, right? Like I got a bunch of team members and I was like, I'll be the guy. That's right. You're talking to me instead of some of my other team members, right? So is that something that you felt just kind of came natural by literally just being a front man? And then how did that sort of morph into like, you know, I built the Kickstarter page, I'm in the video, or, you know, like, did that feel natural to you, or is that something you had to work on?
I think I had to work on it. Yeah. I mean, I'm naturally a pretty like extroverted person, but when I first joined the band, the guitar player who's now no longer in the band, Justin, was like the leader. He was just, he just had he knew what he wanted more than anybody else. Right. He had the opinion about everything. And so it was actually nice. It was like, you know, sometimes that's annoying, but like, it's nice to sit back and be like, okay, well, this guy's got it handled. Like he's going to make sure the bills are paid, and he's going to do, you know, and I can be the artist. Right. And that was nice for a while. And when he left, it really like, it kind of, you know, responsibility did fall on my shoulders as being the front man. Like I had to do interviews and stuff like that. But like the business side, the COO side of stuff, he was definitely in charge. And so him leaving was definitely a vacuum, and I had to fill a lot of that role of like, okay, what are we going to do next? What's the plan? You know? Right. And figuring out, doing the Kickstarter was really like kind of the first time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the reins of this whole thing and see if we can make one last record, you know? And here we are, you know, 5 records later, still doing it. So
what's been the biggest difference between these last 5 campaigns or so that you were, you know, for you know, specifically that you're seeing, like from 2011 to where we are now? What are you seeing Kickstarter changes, and what's happening and from your perspective?
You know, it's interesting. After we did the first one, I thought, well, that's it. You know, like there's no guarantee that they'll come back. Like this could, you know, Kickstarter was new and people didn't understand that it was like a perennial thing. Like they thought, oh, you just do one Kickstarter and then you're done, right? Because you can't just keep going back to the well and like asking people to fund your projects, you know? Right. And I was just surprised that every time they came back stronger and stronger. Like they really, really loved the experience. They loved getting the package in the mail, even if it was a year after they backed it. It was like a surprise. It was like Christmas. Right. And knowing that they were a part of it. So the only thing that's really changed for us is that I don't have to do a big explainer when I do the video anymore. The video can be a minute and a half, and it's like, you guys know what's going on. Like, we're not trying to reach new people with our Kickstarter. You know, whenever you have a successful Kickstarter, and we funded this one in 80 minutes, it's as the fastest we've reached our goal. Right. And our goal has always been for a full length LP, 30,000. So whenever you do that in day one, there's like a ton of people that come out of the woodwork that say, hey, I can help you with your Kickstarter, you know, and inevitably it's like, give me a cut and I'll get you, you know, I'll send an email to my email list or whatever. It's like, to me, it's like, I've never done that. And the reason is, well, number one, I get why they're there, because we have money suddenly and they think they could, you know, make some off of us. But 2, it's just like, music is not a product that you can just sell to anyone. Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's always been about just like, hey guys, we're here. You know what's up, you know, and that's the biggest change over the years with our Kickstarters, is that we just say, hey, it's that season again. It's that time again. Right. Right. And instead of explaining to people exactly how it works, because that was a long time ago.
And, you know, for us on our position where we were from 2010 to 2011 and stuff, we felt like it was a really good platform for new artists. Like you could go and explore on Kickstarter. Do you feel like that exists anymore, or do you have to be a little bit more established? Like you've got a fan base, you've got a newsletter. Do you think a band right now could go on Kickstarter without an audience, without Spotify plays, without a newsletter, and have success on the platform?
I wouldn't recommend it. No. I mean, when I consult for bands, it all depends on, for me, it's that first 24 hours. You know, you want to meet your goal in that first 24 hours, because that will get you visibility with the algorithms and all that. Yeah. But in order to do that, you kind of need a mailing list. You you need some influence. Yeah, people aren't going to pre-order something from you unless they really know they want it. And yeah, I wouldn't, if it's a cool gadget, I could see that. Like I did one campaign for like a fitness gadget that was pretty cool, that was successful. But that you can sell with a video,
Right.
and it's something that people are already interested in, who are interested in fitness. It's not like, like my buddy put it this way. It's like when you start a band, it's not like you're opening a teriyaki shop where everybody who already knows they like teriyaki is going to go try your teriyaki shop.
Right.
Like, it's not that. You're starting something. You're starting like a thing. You're starting a restaurant of like a brand new food that no one's ever tasted before.
Yeah. I put this in my mouth? What?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have to sell them on the food before they're going to come order it. You have to like entice them, or they have to have tasted your food before they want to come back. So it's a little bit harder, I think, for bands, but I think there's a lot of other tools online that help people get audiences. There's a lot of ways to exchange emails for free songs and downloads and stuff. And so I always encourage people to build that email list before they launch their campaign. This is going to help a lot.
And from your perspective, where is the music industry today? Like, where is it? There's a reason I'm out of it, right? Like I pivoted into, I still do live sound for the big mega churches here in our area, right? Like that's what I got spit into. I own studios. It was a pretty safe move, right? Like, but what is it right now? Especially, we're like on your end, like what happens if there isn't touring for another year? Because it feels scary for even a guy on my end looking at it who loves this world. Where is it right now?
Yeah, it's tough. Everything's been in flux. There's, who said this? Someone said, it's a quote. There is no better. There's only trade-offs. And I think that's true in any industry, especially industries that are being affected by technological revolutions and advancements. And with the industry of music being a physical format, moving into the digital space, and then to just streaming only, where people don't actually own it. They just basically rent a song for half a cent.
Yeah.
That has its trade-offs, and it's not necessarily good or bad. I'm still here doing music, and it doesn't fund like my whole band being here doing it. But I'm still able to write songs, and it seems that, that's something that I had a goal of doing. So I'm achieving a goal. But yeah, it's a lot of the industry has relied heavily on live shows and tours. Our band, when we go out on the road, like that's a big source of our income.
Right.
For the year, and so not being able to do that is a huge loss. And I think for a lot of bands, I could see that being a massive loss too. Like I don't think I think a lot of bands won't make it through this period, which I don't know what to say. I think it's sad, but I think there's ways that you can make it through. So many people are live streaming. I did 14 shows on Twitch called Quarantunes during quarantine, and those went really well. We did a couple other shows online, and those were fine. So there's ways to make it work, but we're in that sort of like not ideal phase of transitioning to how is this going to work, and can we even do this?
Right.
So
do you see an influx of bands potentially coming to Kickstarter, kind of coming back to it, like big bands that you would never imagine, like, I don't know, Pearl Jam's on Kickstarter per se. I don't know. You're just like, what? Like,
I'd like to run that campaign.
Yeah, I'll run that. I'd like to work on that one as well. So yeah, we'll tag team that one.
I think we could crush it. We could crush it.
They might have a fan base. I'm not 100% sure, but but yeah. I wonder if like bands would be looking at this as a scenario going, well, we can go and raise, whatever, $500,000, to do a record, or, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if bands would start looking at this and I'm just talking about like big major label bands would start to look at these platforms again, potentially. Do you think that would happen at all?
I would hope so. It takes a little bit of swallowing your pride to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because you are getting rid of the protection or the facade or the veil of like a handler or a middle person.
Right.
And having that is kind of comfort to famous or successful people. You kind of have to shirk that and be like, push that person out of the way or the label out of the way and be like, hey, here's me. Right. And that's how you have a good, successful Kickstarter. It's like, it's you and me.
Yep.
And I think it's really hard for famous people to do that.
Well, but what you just mentioned there too is, again, even if you're not famous, I tell this to again, back to the startup world, is that's what crowdfunding is successful on, is when you, you feel like I'm talking to you, not this, here's my brand label, here's my logo. I'm not buying from your brand logo. I care about who you are and your story. And will this product make, make me feel better or whatever it is, problem solution, right? Like, so I think that's even what you just said there is something that even, I just want to start my business. You got to be open and be vulnerable to put down that shield, right? To go on Facebook Live and just go, here I am, ask me a question about my thing, Yeah.
And a lot of people, even peers of mine who are just in slightly more successful bands, just couldn't do that. They were like, no, we're gross. Yeah. And I'm like, you gotta adapt or die. And frankly, a lot of them died. So, the industry money is not there for people to just prop people up anymore. It is this more decentralized thing, and it is more personalized. And celebrity is not this unreachable thing anymore. I mean, everyone expects to be able to tweet at or get in the comment section of their favorite celebrity, and sometimes get a response. Like, it's not like they're untouchable. So
Cameo's putting some gasoline on that fire, where you can get anybody you want to tweet you. And
for nothing. For like
$100.
It's like, we have so many celebrities. They're so cheap. The market's been flooded. No one cares anymore. Just do you make something cool? Put your face in front of the people who want it and tell them about it and make that connection. Like, that to me, that's one of the good things that I think is happening in the diversification and the decentralization of everything away from these big, aggregates, is that this idea that there is like some special, place that you can live that's separate from other people. It's that's kind of crumbling,
Yeah, I agree.
It's proving that you actually need people, and you should connect with the people that you need.
Yeah,
to do
100%.
Yeah.
Where does how does vinyl fit into your whole business plan, back to like a physical product instead of it just being, it seems like, and even for myself, I've just got back into it. I ordered my new SSL little 2-channel. I put my studio monitors back up. I got my Audio Technica. Even for myself, I was like, you know what? I want to listen. I don't need the whole the world library in my pocket. I got my 100 records. Where does that fit into your guys' world and business plan? And
I mean, when we were on the label, we put out 3 albums and an EP, and obviously, this is from 2006 to 2010. Mm-hmm. So 2005 to 2010. So it wasn't like the vinyl wasn't on the come up like it is. Yeah, like it has been in the last 10 years.
Yep.
And so we never released anything to vinyl. Our masters got sold from EMI to UMG. We tried to get them after we were off the label. We can't even license our own album to press it to vinyl. We can't even find who to talk to, and they don't care. They're like they're like patent trolls, right? They collect masters to have this legal power in court to threaten Spotify over royalty rates or whatever. So they're not going to give us our masters back or even sell them to us or even license for, So the first thing we did when we did a Kickstarter was like, we're making vinyl. Like that's it, And so every campaign since has been vinyl. And then the first one we just did black vinyl. And then now we do like 2 different variant color vinyls. And we love it, and it's a thing now. Now everyone's always asks about our old records, and I wish we could get them, but yeah, people love it. It's collectible, It's cool. It's like you can frame it. I've got some around in my studio now, but like you can frame it. You can hold it up to the light. Some of those beautiful colors, like and then listening to vinyl, like you said, it's an experience. It's like a spiritual practice. It's like a meditation or something, where
it's slowing down. It's slowing down. Just
you sit down, you do the ritual. There is a ritual to it. It's like, how you set up the thing and then you play it. And then what are you going to do? Oh yeah, of course you got to listen to it because you just went through this ritual.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like something you just throw on in the background, like you do on your phone.
Yeah. Yep.
So I like it. It treats music a little bit more sacred than it has been. I mean, one of the downsides or the trade-offs of everything going digital and being everywhere and being free is that it's really cheapened the value or the air around music is a little bit cheaper. So the vinyl is a good way to remember the value of.
Yeah, it's 100%. I mean, it's. I even found that in the studio world. Like I come from the old days, right? I love big SSL consoles. I built my own Studer sidecar, 16 channel. Like that's my world. And then there's a plugin for $39 that does what I spent 10 years working on. It's just like,
what? Yeah.
Makes me so mad. And then I always get more frustrated. I'm like, it actually sounds pretty good, that $39 plugin. It's
I use the UAD plugs from Universal.
That's what I have too. I have here, see, I got just for whenever I got to pull out some stuff.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I do a little bit of mastering sometimes here on the side. Yeah. Love the UAD stuff. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Is that the solo, the twin solo or whatever it is?
I almost unplugged it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess 14 days to go, couple weeks for the money to drop into the accounts. But what starts happening? Like what starts happening for you guys to start making this record? What's the timeline look like for people to start getting their rewards?
So I would have never done this if I hadn't already done it. But last time, this time of year, exactly 2 years ago in 2018, I launched a Kickstarter and I said, I have no songs. But then I said in January, I'm going to go on this living room tour and I'm going to go down the West Coast. And I did 3 weeks in my RV. Just took one guy with me who was like filming. And we went and did living room shows and we did songwriting workshops where I taught, like a 2-hour workshop on songwriting. And I mostly did this to like help me understand what songwriting is. Cause like for me, it's been this like really organic, you just do it, man. It's like magic, like you just get into it. And like people can't watch you cause then there's no magic. And I just wanted to try to demystify as best I could. And obviously I still think it's magic, but there's ways to behave and engage with it that encouraged the magic, I think. And so that was helpful. And I went and met with some of my friends who have studios and I just recorded some demos. I maybe got like 4 or 5 just like song starts out of the whole thing, out of the 3-week tour. And that was the beginning. And then I spent from January to June, basically, every day in this office studio and working on songs. And I would stream on Twitch occasionally when I felt like I could present something or add something to a song. But it was only that experience. It was only doing that experience that made me confident that I could. And I don't know if I can. See, there's still this fear that like, I don't know if I can even write a record,
Yeah.
But like that fear I've found to be a comfort because it means something good it can happen. I don't know, it's weird. But like, if I'm not afraid and I know it, like it's going to suck, it's just going to suck. It's going to be so uninspired. So right now it's me at the very early stages. I've like streamed twice, some very basic song starts. I'm just kind of shaking the rust off. I'm relearning my short keys and Pro Tools and stuff. Like, how do I was like on stream the other day and I was like, how do I paste over? And someone in chat was like, oh, that's Command D. I'm like, dang it, my chat knows more about Pro Tools than me, But like, I haven't even opened it. Like, I just avoid until I have to. I haven't even opened it in a year. So I'm at that stage where I'm just reopening up Pro Tools, and then my life and soul to the craft of songwriting, and we'll see how that goes. So basically, when the campaign's over, I'm going to give it through the holidays, and then I'm going to hit the ground running in January and try to do the same thing I did in 2019, in 2021. 2-year album cycle. Basically, from January to June, I hope to write a record and do as much of it as I can on stream, that's the really scary hard part for me. Especially like writing lyrics on stream or being super vulnerable. It's like, right. But that's the juice, man. That's what I live for. So
now, have you found, I mean, this is, I used to write tons and tons of songs, and then I just kind of, once my kids happened, I don't know, my life just flipped. But I always found that, man, once I got like this, some sort of spark, I guess this is the magic in my world, where like something happened that sparked it. And then it was like, don't talk to me for like 2 weeks. I just can't stop the flow of stuff. Do you find that like, again, I'm always interested. Songwriting workshops for me have always been challenging, because I'm always like, I don't know how to explain what I'm talking about right now. Cause it's well, like, I can't explain this magical thing where I'm like, there we go. That's working, Yeah. Do you have something along those lines too, you feel like?
Yeah. The first like half of the songwriting workshop was just this wild out there philosophy of like two ultimate powers, chaos and order, and how like I would just describe both sides of it, and like how the art, the function of the artist is to reach into the unknown, the chaos, the dark, the things you don't understand. And it's always with fear and trepidation. You reach in and you pull out something into order, and that thing is the song, but it always comes from the unknown, and you have to be right on the border. You have to be right on the border between the two. You have to be in that insecure space. And like that, it was all about positioning. Because once you're reaching into the unknown and you're pulling stuff out, and it's like blowing your mind, like, it's almost like you're in a trance, like you said, like you're just suddenly you're just like, whoa, it's working, right? Right. And there's no like skill you can learn to pull it out, but there's a skill you can learn to be ready for it, to get there. And Stephen King talks about that in his book on writing. It's like every day he sits his butt in the chair from 9 to noon.
Right.
And he writes something, and most of it's bullshit or whatever, like he doesn't care. Like, but then sometimes he doesn't get out of that chair till like 4 p.m. because it just comes. And Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art talks about the muse. So you have to show up, and there's ways to set your life up to be ready for it.
Right.
And so that's what a huge part of the songwriting workshop I teach is about, like, I guess, how to get in the right position to get the juice.
Yeah. So whenever I like mentored anybody, I was just like, I actually would just talk about what we just talked about, but being around what we're actually be okay with what we're describing. It isn't, you don't just sit down and go, there it is. There's my 3 chords. There's my bridge. I wrote the song. No, it's like, be comfortable with like, I don't know, I'm nervous, or be comfortable in that moment of like, wow, it is actually, like, trust that it is coming out, right? Like, as opposed to being like, whoa, what am I?
Right. Yeah.
So it's fascinating, man. I love the songwriting world. But all right, let's flip over a little bit. Let's do our quick lightning round. I'll get you on your way, because I could probably talk all day about songwriting. So that literally could. All right. So what's the last thing you've watched in the Netflix, Hulu streaming world? What have you been watching?
I watched The Vow on HBO.
That's about the cult.
Cult.
I think Mark Maron just talked about that the other day on a podcast. I was like, I gotta watch this one. Was it good?
Yeah, my wife and I were into that. Yeah, we love that stuff. Like, we watched Wild Wild Country when it came out on Netflix, and that was super great. I just love I just love the human condition, and what just our own ability to self-delude is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't want to do it myself, and so it's like this sort of like, can I learn something about this? Yeah. So that was probably the last thing that I really got into. I mean, my wife's been watching Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek's great. I think we're gonna rewatch it. We just finished it, but it's so funny.
Yeah,
I have a feeling I missed a whole bunch too. Even though it's one of those ones that's gonna be like The Office or Seinfeld or whatever. You just go back to it because
keep going. Yeah,
there's a lot in it.
Yeah, I missed a bunch too because I mostly like it's off to the side. I'm not really paying attention, but yeah, from what I see, it's a great show.
Yeah. So. How about a movie? What's the last movie you watched?
What
actual movie, which I find most people are like, I haven't watched a movie. I watched these 10-part series.
Oh, Christy and I watched it around Halloween.
Okay, like original one? Is there just one?
No, the new one.
Like the newest one or whatever.
It was on HBO too. Yeah. Right. I had never seen it. I actually am a huge Stephen King fan. I'd never even read that book. Like I read the Dark Tower series and Cujo and like tons of Stephen King books, but like I never read it. And I always thought, it's stupid. The clown lives in the gutter. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah.
But the new film was great. I mean, it was basically like Stranger Things. So it's this group of kids and they're all like snarky and precocious and like talking about sex, even though they're all virgins, that whole Stranger Things vibe.
Right.
But each of them has a character arc and they are each haunted by Pennywise the clown in some way that exposes their deep fear. And then they have to overcome that fear. So I thought it was a brilliant film. I thought it was great.
Yeah. We'll have to put that in the list. The wife doesn't really like a lot of the old scary stuff. So maybe I'm watching that one on my own.
Christy and I, we'd never watched scary movies, but she's like, you know what? I'm a grown up now. It's not going to be that scary. Like, let's just, it's Halloween. Let's just like see if we can be scared. And it was more like I laughed at some of the jump scares. Right. Like, I'm just too old and jaded to be really scared. Yeah. So, but I thought it was actually a really well written plot and the character arcs were great. And the overall moral of the story of like facing your fears and the only thing to fear is fear itself, I think is a good moral. So,
yeah. All right. How about a book? What are you reading anything right now? That's not Stephen King.
No, I'm reading a book called Magician.
Okay.
Who wrote it? I forget the guy's name, but it's called the Magician series. I'm reading the first book is called Apprentice, and then the next book is called Master. It's like from the 80s, and it's basically like a Lord of the Rings type book about a magician's apprentice in a fantasy realm of orcs and trolls and elves. So,
Gotcha.
Get out of the daily slog and enter some fantasy. I'm into that. So
very cool. How about podcasts? You listen to anything regularly? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a good amount on occasion. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan's podcast because he has all the big time guests. Yep. So and comedians and stuff like that. Yeah, that's probably like what is even on my app right now? I've been listening to Audible books. Just recently read this book called Irresistible, which is about how addictive all of our devices are.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than seeing the amount of the tracking of how long you're on your device when you get that notification on Sunday. You're like, I was on my iPhone 28 hours.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
What did I do?
So some other shows. I listen to Lex Friedman podcast. He's like a MIT guy. Talks a lot about AI. Making Sense with Sam Harris. He's kind of a social philosopher, neuroscientist. So I like this. I like the Rogan podcast where he has actual scientists on.
Yeah.
And they go wild and talk for 3 hours. I think there's something about the long form podcast that I really appreciate too. It's just like having a conversation on in the background is nice. Yep. I don't have to think too much about it. Yep. I kind of feel like I'm there and it's like enriching my life. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, where can people sort of dive into your world? If this is their first time hearing about your stuff, where should they go? How do they dive in? Obviously I'll send them to the Kickstarter, but where else should they go?
Sure. Yeah, theclassiccrime.com is our website, and there's links to, our Instagram and our Facebook and our Twitter and our whatever else. But yeah, you can find us on SoundCloud or Spotify or iTunes just under The Classic Crime. So
awesome. Matt, well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I'm going to go back this campaign because This looks awesome, man. And kudos to doing
Thanks.
a good job and working the Kickstarter angle for musicians, man. I love it. It's definitely my wheelhouse over here. So everybody go check it out. And Matt, thanks again for your time.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.